give it back. So I was a good salesman, and that's how I got into coaching originally, was just talking someone else into it. That was a long time ago, but I was committed to not embarrass myself with him and make sure I could pay him back. I was committed to my growth. I was committed to moving from the back row to the front row. And, my business has been honestly, it's been a slow progression ever since. I've had a couple maybe leaps here and there, but each and every year I've learned to do things differently, do things better, adjust my goals. And I'm just a constant, sponge for information out there on how to tweak what I do every day. I never really believe I've figured this thing out yet. I constantly think that there's people out there doing it better than me, and I look for them, hunt them down, study them, and then implement what I think I should put in my business.
Well, that's definitely the definition of the Ed Kaminsky that I know. Even till today, you clearly, you're always looking to grow and do and sharpen your skills. And I appreciate it. You're, in life, we're either a warning or an example, and you are an example of the highest level. So we appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. So we ran into COVID recently. And I would suspect, based on the numbers I'm looking at, that January and February were probably pretty awesome months for you, correct?
Yeah. I didn't know what to expect in 2020. 2019 was, decent, but we weren't sure what we're going to run to in 2020. We thought we were at the end of the run. And then when it showed up, it was clear that we were going to have a low inventory issue and pent up demand and just, more of a seller's market than a buyer's market. And that showed its face really quickly in January and February of this year. And then it rolled into March, and our March was going, I call it a freight train. It was going, and you weren't going to stop it. So the freight train was moving in March, and then we got hit with COVID. And, fortunately that train was moving along. I had a few deals fall out immediately. March ended up being decent, but as soon as it hit, I went through a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions, and you asked me to jump on here, and I thought, I could share some of the stuff I did that I went through, and I called it my crushing COVID plan, because I wasn't going to let it take me down. But I wasn't sure. This was all new. So it was all gut instinct, like what the hell to do. And so I changed on a dime. That day, but new stuff was thrown at me all the time. So I had to kind of duck and move and turn and adjust through so many different emotions and thoughts that came through. So I'm happy to touch on some of those if that's important. Fortunately, it's starting to get into our past, but we'll go wherever you want to go, Neil.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do, Ed, and I think we can go down that street a little bit too. Absolutely. Mindset, but mindset, no matter what, is king in this business as I see it. And your mindset when you were in the Mike Ferry in the room, when you were not producing at the levels you're producing at, your mindset was, I can do this, I can do better, I can beat anyone in this room. And you went out and you did what needed to be done. And quite frankly, just to give a picture of where you're at, I'm not sure you know this, but I'm looking at the statistics in the CRMLS. That's the biggest multiple listing service probably west of the Mississippi. It's gigantic. And right now, it says the number 2 producing agent in all of Los Angeles County as of now. But when you're number 2, you're actually number 1 in transactions above him. You beat number 1 by transactions, but he beat you by $1 million in sales volume, not commissions. Ed.
He's going down.
I'm telling you, it's right there on the statistics. And that's in real time. That's today's numbers right now. So congratulations. Your average sales price, the last time we talked about a year ago, your average sales price was around 1718. The average sales price for you right now is just a hair over $1.9 million. And that's statistics from the Board of Realtors. That's not what Ed says it is, or people dream about. Those are the numbers compared to the reality. So congratulations, man. You are really kicking it. And based on what I'm hearing, you've only just begun.
Yeah, it's the tip of the iceberg, Neil. Watch out.
So this is a mindset issue. So talk to me. I mean, there got to be days where you don't feel like doing this, isn't it?
I had one.
Okay.
I had one.
You had one.
And
what happened? And what happened that day?
It's funny. I never experienced it before, honestly. I mean, I literally wake up every day ready to take on the world. And I go really hard. I mean, I do work hard. I work harder than anyone I ever have found. And I work, early in the morning, and I work late, and sometimes I exhaust myself, but every time I go to sleep and wake up, I'm back. I really wake up refreshed. Except in the middle of COVID, there was one day I woke up and I don't know what hit me. It was just like some mental thing just got over me. And I had 7 appointments that day. It was in the beginning of May. And now preface it with the fact that I pressed harder than I've ever pressed March, from the day it started up till this day. I was nonstop. I was, and I'll share a couple of things I did, but it was really quite intense what I was going through work-wise and home-wise. But when I guess I hit a wall. If you hit a wall, right? I just never hit one. So I had looked at my calendar. I had 7 appointments, and it was 7 a.m. and I canceled them all. I just canceled them. I said, I'm out of here. And I had just bought a new street bike, and I've never really went on a long ride before. I actually didn't even intend to that day, but I said, I'm going to go ride to the beach and look at it. And I got there, and I live in Manhattan Beach. And then I said, well, I have a listing in Playa del Rey. It's not that far. I will drive to Playa. So I drove over there and looked at it. And I said, I used to live in Marina. I was going to go drive past my old apartment. Drove over there. I said, well, I was in the Marina. I'm not that far from Venice. It's actually the first place I lived in 1980 in California. So I drove past my first apartment. And then I used to hang out at the 3rd Street Promenade. So I drove over there on my bike. And then I saw Wilshire Boulevard. I said, I'm just heading east. And I headed up east up Wilshire Boulevard. And I ended up in Westwood. And there was a lot of cars. So I just went off into Westwood and drove around there. And ended up on Sunset Boulevard. I drove down there and I almost got run over. And I said, this is dangerous. So I turned right. And up in your neighborhood, I think. And I saw these beautiful homes in Beverly Hills. And I've only seen them in the past really from cars. I just drive through. I've never been just casually cruising through. So I cruised up and down all those streets. And then I said, well, the Beverly Hills, actually, the city is right there too. So why don't I go there and go to my favorite restaurant, which was Il Postillo, and drove over there, and it was closed like everything else. And I found a little Italian place serving pasta out the front door. So I ordered a pasta. I sat on the sidewalk and ate my pasta. And then I realized, shit, I got to get home. That's a long drive. I didn't even know how long I was gone. I looked at my watch. I was gone 3 hours, maybe 4. So I drove back home. It was a 7-hour ride. So that was the day I hit my wall, and I just went on a 7.5 hour bike ride and came home and just kind of chilled out, talked to my wife for a while, and next day started over again. So that was my one day.
That was it. So what makes Ed go? I mean, what is it? What keeps you in the game, man?
I think what it is for me is I believe that there's potential within all of us. There's potential within myself. and that it is our duty to tap into it. And until I tap into my potential, I feel I'm shorting myself personally. And from all aspects of life, you can look at all your equities, your 5 equities, or your, my business equity seems to show up the loudest for me most of the time. And so it's something that I work on hard. And so when I wake up in the morning, I know I'm not at my potential, then I'm figuring out how to get there. And so, I used to be in my marketplace and compete with my market and trying to stay ahead of that competition and then, or catch them. Now I look outside my market, right? I go look at Josh Barker's or Bernie Gallerini's and they're selling 800 homes a year. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm not doing anything, right? I suck compared to these guys. So when I see that, I'm like, okay, what are they doing so well? Specifically that I should be doing, because I'm not hitting those kind of numbers. Now, obviously, if I sold 800 houses a year at $2 million a pop, that would be some kind of crazy numbers, but heck, if they can do it there, I don't know what the difference is here. So it's really, I'm committed to finding my true potential, Neil. I'm looking for it, and I'm constantly testing it and tweaking it and trying to improve to get there.
So is it coming from books? Is it coming from, well, you said it's coming from people in certain cases.
Yeah, I'm an avid reader. I used to buy books. I got, hundreds of books at home, but I'm an Audible guy now. It's just easier. Books put me to sleep today. So I listen to books. So I get up in the morning at 5 or 5:30 and start my day and my routine. And I'm either putting on Audible while I'm working out or I'm putting on motivational music. It depends. I switch from moods, or I put them in my car if I'm not doing it during my workouts. But again, it's just studying others that are doing well. And it's both in this business as well as outside this business. There's way more people outside our business that are way more successful in the eyes of, rating them based on income. You have billionaires around, right?
Right.
So when you look at some of the things they do, their systems, their processes, their thought patterns, all those different things, I'm paying attention to some of the things that I feel I can put into my brain.
Got it. So Ed, you were talking about some things that you have to do every day during COVID. So what were they, and will you keep doing those things as we are going to post-COVID now and we're coming into summer sales?
Some of the things I'll touch on, I adjusted instantaneously. I did go home. And I know in real estate, it was an essential business and you were allowed to come to the office, but I parked at home. I set up a home office. I ordered a stand-up desk. I ordered a microphone for Zoom. I bought a green screen. I never did Zoom before. I learned how to do Zoom. So I just educated myself very quickly. And I put more technology in place in probably 6 weeks that I've done in 6 years, just because you were forced to learn different ways of communicating outside of what we were just trained to do, and which was go out and talk to people and shake their hands, and we weren't allowed anymore. So I signed up for a lot of stuff. Some I'll keep, some I won't. The most immediate thing I did, I run a team, is I felt I needed to connect better with the team. So the first thing I did was create daily meetings every day. So 8 o'clock every morning, we all get on the phone and we address the day, my inspirational thought of the day and how to keep them energized and up and moving, and explaining what I thought was going on. And I sometimes I think of sports, right? So I've always worked with a lot of athletes. So when I looked at COVID, I said, you know what this is? This is halftime with a twist. Okay. Basically, someone said, hey guys, it's halftime. You can take a break, refresh, and come out for the second half. But as you're walking off the court, the referee whispered in my ears that the halftime was optional. It wasn't required. So if you wanted to stay on the court, you could stay on the court. So that's what I heard. And I said, screw halftime. I'm not going in. I'm going to keep playing. I'm going to get some more points and I'm going to keep scoring. And when the rest of the world comes back and be so far ahead of them, they're never going to catch up. And so that's why I pressed. I pressed because I knew everybody was sitting and waiting and watching the news or whatever they were doing. And I wanted to make sure when the world opened back up that we came out running and we're so far ahead that no one could catch us. And so this was an optional halftime. I chose not to take it.
A great thought. That is so well put. Fantastic. Very, very good. So obviously you're going to keep your foot on the pedal and keep going into the post-COVID. So some of the things that you're going to be, so let me ask you a question. I ask agents this all the time. Do you still role play?
I role play with my team. And it's interesting. I find I role play from philosophy now than it's hard to teach, right? I try to teach how I think, right? Because I feel like when I'm in a sales situation, I'm on an operating table like a surgeon, and all of a sudden the vein pops and starts spitting out blood. You got to figure out what the heck to do when that happens. And so I try to teach my team how to maneuver and think this way. The short answer is yes. I work on it every day.
Got it. And prospecting, do you do the standard, looking for business, or do you do?
Yeah, I block off 8:30 to 10:30 every day, except Wednesdays when I have my team meetings. But I'll go back to when I, 2/3 of my career, it was 3 hours a day. I role played from 7 to 7:30. It switched because there was some law changes in when you could make phone calls. Before, when I started, there was no rules about calling before 8. So we actually used to start at 6, calling the expireds. You get a few people mad, but if you called at 6:05, someone was calling at 6, so you're always trying to be first. Now they made the cold call rules 8 a.m. So I would role play from 7:30 to 8 when those rules kicked in, and then 8 to 11 was prospecting. 3 hours every day. My goal was to get 50 contacts a day in those 3 hours. I could average as many as 25 contacts in an hour by using a double phone. I had 2 headsets and 2 phones, and I dialed with both hands, and I wanted to hear 2 ringers at the same time because I knew one probably wasn't going to answer. Once in a rare while, they both answered at the same time, and I would just talk to them both at the same time, and then just use the mute key when I needed to. But I could easily get to 50 contacts a day every day. That was 250 contacts a week. That's why I try to teach my group, and no one listens or pays attention, but that's what I did.
That was only my problem.
I gave a great speech this morning, exactly this whole thing. And then I asked them what their goals were for the week. And it was the same they've always been setting. So I don't know. Communication is different today, right? It's not all on the phone. It's email, it's texting, it's social media, it's a lot of different things. So you really probably don't need the amount of contacts that you did when social media didn't exist and texting didn't exist and emails didn't exist. There's great ways of developing business outside of grinding it out on the phone. So it is different. I acknowledge that, as long as you do it in an intelligent, strategic way.
Got it. So Ed, you deal today with some of the richest, most talented people, sports stars, etc., on a regular basis. and your selling skills today, I would say, would be higher or better or more honed than they were when you were selling houses and you first started doing 20, 30 deals, correct?
Yeah, it's been a progression. When I was new, I lacked self-confidence for a long time.
That's where I was going. I want that journey.
So I thought I knew how to sell, right? But I was selling jewelry before this. So I was selling $500 items or $2,000 items. I wasn't selling $200,000 items. So I was intimidated by the $500,000 homes at the time, or $600,000 homes, which was the high end. I felt that if I spoke to them, they would know that I know less than them, and that intimidated me. So I allowed it to happen. I think there's people that can start in that arena and be 100% comfortable. I just wasn't one of them. So I sold, my average price back then was about 175,000. And so I worked the lower price areas. I worked Carson, Lawndale, Gardena, Hawthorne, and I was very comfortable over there. I guess maybe I grew up poor, so I felt very comfortable in those neighborhoods where kind of felt more like home, I guess. And I just started trying to figure out how do I wanted to get to 50 sales a year. That was my goal. And I didn't care what price they were. And so that was my path. I went there and tried to get to 20, then 30, then 42, and then finally hit my 50. By the time I hit 50, I then said, what the hell am I doing over here? My office was in a really much higher price range market, and I thought I was an idiot. But obviously I was gaining self-confidence. And so I started moving west and doing business in the beach cities. And then I started growing from there. And then I started going west and west until I hit the water. And that's where the really expensive homes were, and, working diligently to work with those clients now.
Right. But what's the mindset? What's the training? I mean, did you go to college? Do you have a college network? I mean,
so I was a handicapped person in my brain, right? I couldn't afford to go to college, so I didn't go. So that was just something I missed out on. And I did think it was a weakness for a long time because I thought everybody I was meeting had gone to college and I didn't. So what I did was I said, I'm going to outlearn them now. I'm just going to read a book a day. I'm just going to read and learn about business, about marketing, about selling, my craft. And I just was everywhere. I went to events. I went to Mike and the Sweat Hogs and everything else that was around at the time. And took all those courses and just kept honing my skills and then practicing. And, ultimately I settled in with Mike Ferry, who seemed to be able to bring great people around him. And so to be surrounded with such great talent all the time, people also hungry for information, people exceeding what I was doing. I wanted to be in that environment to be able to really learn from what Mike was teaching and what the other people were implementing.
Got it. So what advice would you give our group here coming out of COVID, going into post-COVID? What one or two ideas that you would think would be helpful?
The biggest one I'm sharing right now is, I'm calling it June is opportune, right? I'm going back to basketball, okay? And it is the end of the second quarter. And you could probably easily agree that you're behind in points or scores or goals or deals or income where you would like to be at halftime. halftime being July 1. It's halfway through the year. I feed on, my energy is really high and my success rate is really high when I feel good. And the only way I feel good is being on track or being ahead of goal. So if I set a goal to sell 10 homes and I get it by mid-month, I'm going to go sell 20 houses, right? I don't stop. I don't get complacent. I get the opposite. I get this like crazy energy. So for me, and what I'm trying to teach my group is, this is the end of the second quarter. You've got to go out and kill it in June. You can't set a goal for what your average month is in June, because you probably got beat up in April and maybe you got beat up in March. Maybe May was good, but it wasn't good enough to really catapult you beyond where you want to be right now. I want to come out at halftime on July 1, or I'm saying July 5th, after Independence Day, back where I was supposed to be or ahead of where I'm supposed to be. So right now, my vacations are canceled, not by choice, but because of COVID. So I was supposed to go to Ireland for 11 days this month for a golf trip. I'm not going. So I got nothing but extra time on my hand and opportunity. You probably know the stats, Neil. May must have just kicked April's ass as far as business, right?
Yeah, we had more business in May for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I'm seeing that across the board. I had the best week of my career. We sold 11 or 12 houses last week, which is kind of unheard of. So I know June can be more of the same. If we can keep these rioters out of my town, I think we're going to be just fine. And we're going to absolutely be able to catapult our normal monthly numbers and boost it up by 50% is my goal. So I can just catch up and hit July 5th running fast.
I love it. That's fantastic. We have a question here. Let's see. It went up a little bit. Joe,
I'll ask a question while you're looking for the questions. A question for the group to ask yourself: do you really want to hit July 1 or July 5th feeling better than you do if you don't feel great right now? And the question is, what can you really do differently? And it's a question I keep asking myself and my team. What can you do differently right now that is going to create those results? Are you really willing to do what it takes to get more results? And I'm sure Neil has all the answers, right? Whether it's role playing, making contacts, focusing, being more intense with the clients. Here's what I taught them. Someone said this morning, well, I just want to be like you, Ed. I said, well, you have to have the 20 years of history to be able to get here. It doesn't work that way. So what did I do? I was absolutely committed to improvement, absolutely committed to honing my skills. And every day that I practiced my skills, I felt like I ran into that situation later in the day and I used it. I was committed in my 3 hours of finding clients every single day. 3 hours every day. I wasn't going to stop. And I was committed to the intensity of making my clients absolutely recognize that I was committed to them. I was going to find them what they wanted if it was a buyer. I was going to help them get what they want if it was a seller. I was insane, and it really hasn't slowed down. If a client ends up on my phone that wants to buy or sell, they're going to know that I'm committed to them, right? I'm going to call them 4 times that day and tell them what I found in the marketplace, the research I did, why I think these prices are here and why this home is over here and why that one sold and why that one didn't sell. And if they're selling, I'm getting that data for them as well. There's no way they're going to go work with anybody else because I'm more committed to them than anything else in my life. So if you do the 3 or 4 things that you can practice to actually find these clients, and then be intense about it when you do, that is going to create success. I'm just asking the question, again, what will you do in June that's different than you've always done that's going to allow you to have some growth in your business? And tap into that answer as best you can.
Well, that's a great question. A fantastic question. Thanks, Ed. I really appreciate that. We'll put that out for sure. Hey, so So one of the questions was, where are you, your client base is, you know, kind of the who's who, if you will. I mean, what do you do? Not specific, but in general, what do you do to build that base and to meet new clients and to look for that? What's the kind of the?
You have to get one. Obviously, you have to start with one. However you're going to do it, and usually you have to do it through luck. You get one, right? But it could be an open house, it could be a cold call, it could be a referral, it could be an introduction, you could be at an event. We don't have events anymore. Wherever you meet people these days, the grocery store, I guess. But you got to get that one, and then you really have to work around that one. So if you get a listing, you're pounding the pavement around that neighborhood to let them know you have the listing. You're hunting for a buyer. Your signs out there. You're marketing this, whether it's direct mail, cold calling, advertising, whatever. The world's got to know, right? And then you get another one, and then another one, and another one, and this kind of feeds upon itself. And so when you do this in one little niche market, and it doesn't even have to be physical, it can be a type of client. Maybe you work with just chefs, maybe you work with just dentists, maybe you work with divorce attorneys, whatever it is, you become really that known entity. And you can become that known entity in a physical location by dominating that market. But it's got to start with one, and then you got to build around it. It's not going to happen in 3 months or 6 months and not a year. I mean, it takes years of development to be able to get that. So yeah, I moved from the east to the west, to the west, to the west, and then just continue to build from that. So now my people can't drive anywhere without seeing my sign. People can't open up our local throwaway paper without seeing me. People can't go on social media without getting hit by me. So you start to build upon it. And not any one of them works alone. That's the problem with this, right? You can't just start doing mailers and get all this business. And you can't just start doing open houses and getting all this business. It's everything. And that's the sad part. You got to do it all. There's no shortcut. There's no easy way. And if you find that guy, let me know.
That's great. Excellent. Ed, you take a couple of questions?
Certainly.
Absolutely. Okay. Good job. Questions for Ed Kaminsky, please.
Yeah, I got a question. You said earlier that he grew up poor, so he was more comfortable doing business in poor neighborhoods. So my question is, what was the aha moment? When did the light go, comes on for you and you said, I need to transition?
There's a few days in my career where I woke up and I said, God damn it, I'm not going to take it anymore. And I was tired of looking at those little baby checks when the guy sitting next to me was cashing these gigantic checks. I was like, screw that. And, but at that point, I just had enough confidence because I did it, right? I was confident in my skill level. I took care of those clients. I did a great job. I knew how to get their homes sold. I knew how to get them a home. And I now knew that it had nothing to do with price. It had to do with the steps I was taking to help my clients achieve the goals they wanted. And I could just shift it over. So that's how it happened.
Great job. Thanks, Ed. Good question, Delroy. Okay, other questions for Ed? Unmute. Go ahead, Yvonne. Unmute yourself.
Yeah. Thank you for being here, Ed. I appreciate you. Hi. And really, I just feel so empowered by your interview. And I really impressed by what you say. I absolutely commit to working on my skills, absolutely commit on finding those clients in 3 hours, and commit to make my clients feel I'm 100% committed to them. You know, when you're working with a buyer, you call them 4 times a day, tell them what you found and what is, you know, the comparable, everything. So, you know, that's what I need to change, because before, when I was working with buyers, you know, if they don't sign buyer broker agreement with me, I would just forget you. I don't want to work with you. But now I think by changing my attitude, you know, by making them feel I'm committed to them, by really working hard, I think I can still get their trust and get the deal done and get a referral. Thank you for that.
Don't, that's perfect. I just say, don't confuse intensity with annoyance, right? Just calling someone 4 times a day and not giving any good information, but just reaching out is not going to do it. You have to use your ears. You have to listen to what they're asking. What information are they really looking for? And go find that information and deliver that information in a professional way. And then that intensity will look like service. It'll look like commitment to them. Because people can get confused with that statement and just call them, hey, how's it going today? You know, did you see the sun set? You know, people don't want to talk about that. They want what's going to help them in their life. So listen to what they're looking for, deliver that correct information. It'll help a lot.
Love it.
Yes, thank you.
I love it. Good stuff. Any other questions?
I have a question. And you had the opportunity to go from both the low price to the high price clientele. I'm wondering what similarities and what differences do you see in those 2 segments of the market?
I will say that there is a higher need for real information in the high end from the sellers. They want to know what the value is of their home and why. They want to know, what are you really going to do to market the home? They want to know why the home's not sold 8 weeks from now. What are you going to do to change the results? And you got to be really on your game. You have to know this inside out. And they do expect and desire a lot more communication than the lower price point. I can go in to a lower price point, and a lot of those clients just trust you to just do the job and get it done, and they're comfortable with that, and you can go get the job done and price it right, and it's going to sell. The high end's a little bit different. It's a little bit trickier. It's not, you can't just stick it in the MLS sometimes and expect it to happen. You got to make deals happen. You got to communicate with a lot of brokers. You got to convince the brokers the value's there, because, you know, they're hearing from their client it's not worth that, and you've got to sell the value. It is different. So the pros of the lower price inventory is it's a little bit easier to do, honestly, a lot less time intensity. The higher end, the checks are bigger. So that's better.
Actually, the first 3 points, the checks are bigger.
But I also find, though, in the higher end, I get more referrals. If you do a great job, and it's a great job, you can't do an average job. I don't know if I have this book. I still have it. What the hell was it? Not here, but I read this great book about customer satisfaction is worthless. Customer loyalty is priceless. So what is the difference? Most customers that go into a customer experience have a certain expectation. If you meet their expectation, they're satisfied. You go to the grocery store, they ring up the correct amount and give you your change and put your groceries in a bag. That's expected. That's customer satisfaction. Are you going to walk out of there and say what a great experience it is? But if you go into a more special needs grocery store and you're looking around and someone walks up to you and says, what are you looking for? Oh, I'm looking for a widget. Do you guys have widgets? Oh, we got 4 widgets and they're over here. And I recommend this widget for this because it's really great with that. You know, and then they give your kid a lollipop on the way out and they carry your groceries to the car. They thank you. They wipe down your car because it got COVID on it. You know, that's that's loyalty. That's creating loyalty. So if you can create that kind of experience in the high end, then you will get referrals. But you can't provide satisfactory service and expect them.
The book you're talking about, is that the one by Jeffrey Gatomer?
I thought it was a woman. I read a long time ago. Pretty sure it was a woman. But I could be wrong.
Hi, Ed.
I was wrong once before.
Ed, it's Josie Jellick. You shared with us a couple of years ago one of your favorite affirmations. So I know I believe that you believe in them. And you have children. Have you worked with your children on that?
Well, yes. My child is probably one of the best producers in our company. She works for me now, Tina Kaminsky Phillips, new married name. So she was one of the only people that I've ever hired to actually listen to everything that I taught and actually did it. So she got in the Mastermind group. She role played every day. She practiced every day. She prospects 3 hours a day. She goes to Mike Ferry. She signed up for her own coach. And we have 100 agents at Strand Hill. And she ends up in the top 10 working under me. So, which is kind of hard to do, right? When I'm taking half her money. So that's something that shows that, yes, you can copy and do. So the answer is yes. Obviously, you can teach them at any age, Josie, whether they're 4 years old or 40 years old. I think it's a very powerful way to change your mind. And I do believe in focusing on what's great, what is opportunity in front of you, and staying, you got to pound the negative out of you. Yesterday was a weird day, right? I don't know for you guys, but for us, it was 82 rumors coming around that we were just going to be attacked last night. And so I called this guy to board up my office, and I was leaving early. I never leave early. I don't like leaving early. And I was going home, and on the way home, I said, you know what? I'm not turning on the news. I'm not going to look at the TV. I'm going to go back to my office and finish this day. And I'm just going to push through, and I'll look at the news at 9 o'clock to see if our city burned down or not. Just wasn't going to let it get to me. So I hide from this stuff. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but it's just who I am. I can't help it.
Oh, that's great. Good. Iris, you have a question?
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Ed. My question were how many, who do you call for your 50 contacts, and how big is your database? Thank you.
So when I called 50, I called by the street. I just up and down streets. So if I had a listing or a buyer in a particular area, I would just call up and down, because I felt the conversations I was having with the clients became more real because I already knew what I was talking about. So if I took a buyer out and showed 6 houses, I knew every house for sale in that neighborhood. And so when I got into a conversation on the phone with somebody, I could talk about the blue house on the corner of Elm or the red house on the corner of Oak. And I sounded like I knew what I was talking about. That gives me a lot of confidence in these calls. So I liked calling around areas I already had some understanding of that area. So that's what I did. Today, it's different. I am calling my database. It's the focus of my calls. I call my past clients, my sphere of influence, and my new hot leads. And it took me 50 contacts back then. It took me 100 contacts back then to get a chance for a transaction. Today, I can talk to one person and get a transaction. So I have to slow down my calls because my efficiencies are so much higher today than they were before.
Okay, great thought. Excellent. Good
Suzanne
job.
was raising her hand. Go ahead, Suzanne.
Yeah, Suzanne.
Hi. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ed. I was just curious, like you're getting a lot of your listings right now. Do you find that people are listing to move out of California? Are they downsizing, or where's like the chunk of what you're seeing speed up?
So after I went on my 8-hour bike ride, I came and I wrote this down, this thing, and I was going to get 25 new listings by the 4th of July.
Wow.
Because I knew that controlled my destiny. So I'm just grabbing this because I'm wondering, okay, where are they going? They're staying local. This is a flipper's house, so they're not going anywhere. Local, getting out of Dodge, going to Palm Springs. I don't know, that's Tina's. This one is getting out of Dodge, leaving California. This one's local. This is a flipper house. This is moving in the same neighborhood. And this one is downsizing to take advantage of enjoying life better. So I don't know, that's just a quick rundown of the sellers. So they're all different. I don't know. Honestly, what do I really think? Who asked that, Suzanne?
Yes.
I'm going to tell you the truth. It doesn't matter. Honestly, I don't care.
Yeah.
My job is just to find someone who wants to move and convince them that I'm the right agent for the job. I don't care if they're staying local or they're moving, and I'm not trying to figure out what the world is doing, honestly. I'm just trying to find someone that needs help and then share with them why I think I'm the right choice.
Thank you.
Great thought. Absolutely fantastic. Okay, and one more question out there. What do we got? I can't see everybody.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Candy.
Okay, could you go over again loyalty versus satisfaction, please?
Yeah. So the name of the book is Customer Satisfaction Worthless.
Sorry.
Suzanne's phone's ringing. That's a
I'm
seller.
sorry.
It's a seller. They're ready.
Up call.
Customer satisfaction is worthless. Customer loyalty is priceless.
Okay, thank you.
That's great.
It just talks about really improving your service to a level that people want to talk about. So your service is so high, they do want to talk about it. If service is really bad, they want to talk about it. And they want to tell people how terrible you are. If they're satisfied with how you do, they don't talk about it. So you have really 3 locations. It's so amazing they want to tell 2 or 3 people about it. It sucks they're going to tell 10 or 12 people how bad you are, or it's just okay they're telling nobody.
Got it. Jeffrey Gitomer is the author. Jeffrey Gitomer.
Oh, so I was wrong.
That's great. Yeah.
Not a woman.
Well, this has been not great. This has been fabulous. I really, really, really appreciate it. Ed, you know, you never cease to amaze. It's been fantastic. This has not been satisfactory. This has been spectacular. So thank you very, very much. I have 3 pages of notes. So thanks. I'll be writing and rewriting. All right, everybody, let's big hand, Ed Kaminsky. Good job.
Thank you, Ed.
Really
You're welcome.
appreciate
Thanks,
it.
guys.
Very, very much. Thank you so much.